Hi, I'm Dr. Ann-Louise Lockhart, pediatric psychologist and parent coach, and I'm partnering with Meta today for their Meta Screen Smart event here in Austin, Texas. I'm going to be a headliner here with the Meta team, and we'll be talking more about teens and screens and how to set limits and all the fun stuff. So join me today. So I think one of the things that I always tell parents is to be curious. So if your teen asks about being on social media, rather than just giving in, because there's a lot of parent peer pressure going on to give in, is get curious about why they want to get on. So for example, my daughter is 14, almost about to be 15, and my son is 12, and neither of them are on social media. And several years ago, well, a couple years ago, she was feeling like she wanted to get on. And so my curiosity was, okay, well, tell me why you want to get on social media. And she said that a lot of her friends knew all these trending songs and dances and all these different things, and she had no clue what was going on, and she felt left out. And I was like, oh, that makes total sense to me. So then I started this folder called Funny in my Instagram app, where I basically saved curated content. So whenever I would see a trending dance or song or meme, and my kids love my sense of humor, and so I have a very wide range of humor, I just save all of these random stuff. And then I would show it, I would cast it to our big screen TV, and then we would spend an hour, sometimes 2 hours, just looking at everything that I saved. And so then she felt like she was in the know, and the request to be on social media stopped. And so I wouldn't have known that had I just said, no, absolutely not, you know, not till you leave my house. But getting curious about why they want to get on it is more effective. And so that's where I think it's more helpful for parents. Just get curious and ask them why, and then see if you can meet that need that's behind the request.
So what advice do you have for parents who are probably just getting started setting up Instagram teen accounts and balancing and setting boundaries online?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously everyone here is on Instagram, so you're pretty familiar with it, but only one of you has been on the Family Center. So I would say start with getting familiar with the app and all the resources, so that when your teen is on it, that you have an idea, because really they are savvy and they know more than us in terms of a lot of these texts and how to get on stuff. So I would say get familiar with it, so that way you know that when they are on it, when you're ready for them to be on it, that you are familiar with it. So I think just getting familiar and then doing it alongside them, so that way you both are familiar, and that they don't see those restrictions as really like a punishment, that they see it more as guardrails to keep them safe on the app, and why they're there. So have a conversation, and again, get curious with them.
Yeah, I think when we talked to a lot of teens about teen accounts, we heard that they actually were kind of excited about an opportunity to be able to use social media in a way that brought their parents in.
Yes.
How should they be starting conversations early and kind of setting their family up for success, even when they're younger and not ready to join social media yet?
Yes, my kids and I have this discussion a lot about this new generation, Gen Alpha, and how everything that they know, especially when you have the preschoolers, the elementary age, their whole life has been around screens and social media. That's their life. And I think one thing that I would say to parents is wait as long as possible before they are on social media. Don't just hand them the iPad and let them go to town. Like really encourage more of the waiting, because what we have seen with a lot of these children is they don't know how to be bored. They don't know how to regulate their attention. They don't know how to just be present. They're at a restaurant, they have to be on their iPad. Like, have a conversation with them. So one of the things I talk with parents a lot about is building executive function skills. And I think that's important. So that's all the things that their brain is doing until about mid-20s in the frontal lobe. And that's for organization, impulse control, emotional regulation, all of those kinds of things. And they're not going to learn that being on a screen. They have to learn that from you. So I would just say that building those skills and developing good habits is going to be key, and waiting as long as possible before plopping them in front of a screen. So that way they really can learn healthy habits. But that also means for you too, that you're not on it all the time either. And I think that's a hard one for many grown-ups, because they're like, well, I did my due, I could be on it if I want. But the thing is that they're also watching you. So you want to have certain no screen zones, so that they can see that as well.
So I think one thing that you mentioned about like just kind of taking back control as a parent, like how do you navigate that though when all of your kids' friends might be on social media, and so there's some like fear of missing out with not letting your own teens be on social media? Like how do you kind of talk to your kids about that situation?
I mean, I think every generation there's that issue, right? Where, the MTV generation's like, well, we only have one TV. My friend has one in her room. Like, what's up with that? I think every generation has their thing. So I think it's also about telling your kid, your teen, that, well, every household has different rules. Every household has different expectations, and this is ours. And, just like back in the day when our parents would say, well, if everybody jumped off a bridge, would you do it too? It's like, well, of course not, but it's that same thing, that it's that parent pressure that I'm seeing, where kids are pressuring their parents, or parents feel pressured to give in to things before they feel that their teen is ready. So I would just say, kind of looking at that and just saying, yes, yeah, I know it kind of is a bummer that you don't have what your other friends have, but this is the way it is in our household. So, but start with the empathizing and validation, because even though you may think the request is ridiculous, just start with, yeah, I get why you feel like you're missing out, but that's what we have in our house. That's how we operate.
And we're probably remembering that it's okay if your kids are mad at you.
Yes, it is okay. It really is. Yes.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about how parents can play a role in their teens' online experience, but I want to switch gears just a little bit and discuss some of the benefits of social media. Working here for so long, like I really truly believe that social media is a powerful force for good. It's how I stay in touch with friends and family, and discover new things. So I kind of want to make sure that like we don't totally lose sight of that. But what are some of the specific principles that you think about when telling teens how to engage with social media in a way that kind of uplifts the good, while limiting some of the bad?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I mean, obviously you all are here because social media has been good for you. It may have gotten you debt, it may have gotten you connected, it changed your career trajectory. I mean, there's a lot of good that comes out of it. So I think we can, and my kids have seen that for me. I only have social media for my business, not personally. Well, no, that's not true, for Instagram. But I think it's really about showing them that I think some of the positives for me has been my creativity and really being able to explore that. I've always loved acting when I was a little kid, so I've been exercising my acting chops with doing some of the reels. I think it's a really great source of connection for business partnerships, for learning a lot of the executive function skills that I talked about. And that's why I really curate this content for my teens, so that they're seeing it, because every once in a while we'll watch a video from somebody and they're like, that's so funny, let's see what else they have. And it's something I may not have saved, and then I'll click on it and they'll be like, oh no, that's not appropriate. And so then even with that, they're like, okay, we see why you save certain things and not others. And I think that teaches them good lessons as well too. So I think those things are helpful in good, in teaching them, like, yes, not everybody that you follow will always have content that you enjoy, but then how do you limit your exposure to certain things when you know that may not be good for you? But yeah, creativity, connection, being able to learn a lot of skills, developing healthy habits. I think those are all really great. And my son wants to get involved in this kind of field with creativity and video editing. And I've had him engaged with doing behind the scenes. I was on a news interview a couple weeks ago, and he had the day off. It was spring break, and so he came with me and did behind the scenes and was able to meet the host, and it was awesome for him. And so I think those kinds of things, because he said I need to up my game on YouTube. So, all these things, they can be able to engage with it, and I think it could be really positive for them, even if they're not directly on it yet.
That is so cool. I love that. one of my cousins who's applying to college told me recently that she actually curated her Instagram page as like a part of her kind of resume and application.
Very cool.
And I was like, oh my gosh, how times have changed. And I was like terrified someone's going to get into my old Facebook photos. So we're going to get into live Q&A shortly. I just have a couple more questions before that. However, if folks do have questions they want to submit, I think we're going to actually just toss around a mic. So just be thinking about those. Okay. I'll come to you. So one of the things about Instagram teen accounts that's so cool is our interest picker feature. We learned today that it's actually a way for teens and their parents to see topics they'd like to see more of, and kind of connect those shared interests, essentially. What are some ways we can do this offline as well with our kids, and just kind of like remind our kids that not everything has to do with screens, and prioritize some of those other spaces?
Yes, I love that question, because as I said earlier, I'm a pediatric psychologist, so I have a practice in San Antonio, and when I see teenagers in therapy who have interests offline versus those who don't, there's a big difference in the way they function and their personality and how well they're able to engage in reciprocal communication, and how they deal with stress. They're very, very different. So I think that it's really important to help your teen discover things that they enjoy that's not always tech-based and online-based. So I think you can start with the things that they're already doing and just say, hey, how about we do this in real life with actually real people in 3D, kind of thing. So
you're saying I should convert some of the home organization reels that I've been saving but not acting on to real life?
Right, actually do the organization.
Great advice for me this weekend. Okay, just one final question. What is kind of the one thing that you think people should take away from this conversation? Say, parents here today want to go home and have a fresh dialogue at the dinner table. How should they be thinking about that?
I think one of the biggest things I hear from parents is they're like, oh snap, I have not had limitations and my kid is just on screens all the time and I need to reset. So now what? I think that's the biggest thing. And you don't want to come home and your kid is like, okay, who did you listen to now that told you to take my stuff away? So what you want to say is like, yes, I did learn something with Meta, and yeah, thank you very much that I was invited. But this is what they were talking about, and this is why. Again, be curious and get to a place where they have some curiosity as well. I've realized that, when you roll out of bed first thing in the morning, you're on screens, and that's not good for your brain. We know that, we've talked about that. So let's reset and do something different. How about we look at in our house, no screen times before noon on the weekends. Okay? That's been the case for years. So they're used to it. But if they're not used to it in your household, then that could be a train wreck. So that you could say, this is why I want no screen times until noon, because I want you to engage in real life activities, real world activities. Let's look at what that looks like. How do you feel about that? And just kind of reset. So I think that's the biggest thing, is maybe you might need a reset in your home, and you can go about just presenting it, seeing how they feel, and then really not going cold turkey, but getting there eventually. Because what I find, why we have that is, if my kids are on screens first thing in the morning, they're not going to want to do anything else because their dopamine needs have been met. And so now they're peaking on all this screen time. Why would they want to go outside or ride their bike or talk to a friend or go to the mall or do anything else? I find that it's best to do something different so that can get fed. And then they can kind of end the day with a little bit of screen time.